Hey, Clare.
Hello, Michaela. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm on a vineyard in my motorhome. This is very
Ah,
beautiful. Yes,
how
beautiful.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And you're not tipsy.
No, because I'm not a big fan of wine, actually. No, it
There
doesn't.
you
Well,
go.
I like wine, but it doesn't like me.
Ah, I hear you. I
Yes,
hear
definitely not.
you. Well, are you ready to explore?
I am. I am. Very excited.
Okay. I would love to explore expectations today.
Oh,
What you
I don't.
got?
I don't have any of those, Michaela.
Woohoo!
She lied. I expect everybody to live life Claire's way, and you know what? They flipping don't. Yes, I could probably laugh through this entire session because, oh, they sting you, don't they? Expectations. I have loads of them. To be fair to me, less than I used to have.
Yeah.
But they creep up in all sorts of little places where you don't realize you're doing it, that I guess the person who gets the brunt of my expectations is my fiance, Bruce. He gets the brunt of me, thinking life should look Claire's way, expecting him to know what I'm thinking, know what I want him to do, know all sorts of things. It's mostly with him. I think that's the most it comes out.
Mhm.
And but what I have noticed, and I have done a little bit of exploring of that particular word alongside agreements, which I think are much more powerful in terms of navigating life with other people, is that if we make an agreement about something, if we sit down and we talk through an issue and we get away from Claire's way of doing things and get to Bruce's way of doing things, and we actually I articulate myself from a place of calm, and I kind of say, look, can we come to some kind of agreement as to how you're going to be in this particular situation and how I'm going to be? Generally that does have a much more powerful effect. I don't know if that's the right word, but yeah, it does have it's more impactful in terms of, because there are some things that we'd like to be a particular way and not another way, aren't there, in life? Maybe I've got more of those than I would like to have.
Mhm.
But it is better if we can kind of agree how we're going to navigate those things rather than me assuming that he thinks the same way as me and therefore should know better. I think comes in with expectations. They should know it's like this. Why don't they know it's like this? So I would say it's been a very tricky area for me in the past, and I really didn't used to really understand that other people don't think the same way as me. I absolutely, if somebody didn't do something, I would just used to think, well, they know that's not the right thing to do. Why are they still doing it that way? I would say more so now. I have a lot more ease around it, and I kind of get that everybody's got a different way of thinking. I understand separate realities.
Yeah.
I understand separate realities, and I understand that people see the world in a unique way that's different to mine. That there's 7.8 billion ways of seeing the world, and mine isn't the right way. I'm still laughing because sometimes it really does seem that my way is the right way. And what's really interesting for me, the last little bit for me, is that it really doesn't work because really Bruce does. And, I'm talking about him because he's the main person who I would butt up
Mhm.
against in this. It is that he definitely doesn't think like me at all. So I would say he's his son recently got a dyslexia diagnosis, and he definitely seems to have some tendencies towards that dyslexic like way of thinking, and it definitely comes out more in his thinking than anywhere else, I think, really, and how he navigates life, and we are very different in that. So yeah, it it really can create a lot of friction between us and other human beings. I think that's where, for me, where it mostly comes out. So how about you? What have you seen around expectations?
Yeah, well, some very similar as well, right? And some, yes, like our expectations, I kind of see that they're coming from they are our own personal reality. They're from our perspective. It makes sense to us that this is how it should go, that it just looks like it's going to work better if we just do it my way. And yeah, I totally, and there at times there are some, especially like, if I was to take a little child, and we're baking together, and there's a way of doing it, and then you can see that they're starting to stir it in a different way, or kind of, and there's a better way, but it's like you have a little more grace, because there's also a curiosity when you see from there, where it's like, well, how are they going to manage this? And then if they're okay with it, and it might take longer and it might be super duper messy. I was always, because I was doing the cleanup typically, or the final cleanup, I always wanted to control situations so that it was less work for me some way, whether at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end of whatever it is we're doing. It's just like, if you just let me do it my way. So what happens is, like, then it's like, okay, go ahead and do it, Michaela. There you go. You know the right way, go ahead and do it. So it's just like, right, if it's going to be done right, then I'll just do it myself. So you take on all this extra responsibility, and find out that now this isn't working for me again, because now I'm feeling like it's all on me. So that's one way that I've seen expectation. And this was a new way that I just saw last night, and it was so cool. My son is in New Zealand. He's there for several months, and he's actually playing on the one of the New Zealand ice hockey field, the Pro Men League in Dunedin. And he's been exploring Dunedin, New Zealand. And we were WhatsApping last night, and he was, he said that he had gone to this one museum, and it's the older culture of New Zealand, and he's going to go next to another museum, which is more about the current culture. And he gave me a little history lesson on Dunedin, and it was like, I was tickled, truly, because I had no idea that this young man was interested in the history of things. I can't remember the last time as a family we had gone to a museum, but I'm pretty sure it was quite a number of years ago, and they didn't, he didn't take the time to really look at things like I would look at it. And of course he wouldn't. He was a young kid. So it was just so interesting to me that he surprised me, and surprised me that I had these expectations. I didn't even know that I thought I knew him in this way. And I realized, wow, I had, some unspoken, unrecognized kind of expectations. So it was just thrilling to even, then, and it's just been like less than 12 hours that this has come up, to think that, wow, okay, I have these expectations of things all over in my life, in my day-to-day life. And also, I know that there's all of these surprises that are embedded in there, tucked in around all that. And how can I be more open to those too? Like, I wonder what else. I wonder what else there is that I don't know about, that I'm not, taking what I know in my own mind, in my own personal perspective. What else is available to see and be surprised and delighted by? Anyway, that was just another thing that came up around expectation. So it was both this like, oh, I can really get in trouble with expectations, and wow, how exciting. And really interesting when I allow myself to be curious, like when I see how Rob packs the truck, how Elizabeth packs the truck, and how I might pack the truck. And typically I'm kind of getting things together in the house and sort of when we're going away for a weekend or a week or whatever, I'm sort of in the house, kind of getting the last minute things all taken care of. And I'm just like setting the stuff out that they're packing. So it's always kind of curious how it's all done and differently. And it all works.
I love the story about your son, and yeah, I can relate to that with some experiences I've had with my son recently, where I guess probably underestimated him, which it sounds like is similar to what happened there. We see people, we put them in a box, haven't we, of some description. We have expectations wrapped around them, and then the other side of it, this kind of, the other side of us wanting other people to understand better how things should be done right. And we have to laugh at. But I wonder what came to mind when you were saying, with the bit I said and the bit you said, was then how does that come up in how we are with ourselves?
Oh,
like both of those, like thinking we should know better. Like, why did we do that? I would say I have high expectations. My hand won't reach any higher, but I have pretty high expectations of myself, and always have had, probably to the point in the past of being quite beating myself up a lot, really, about not being how I think I should be. And that leading to me trying to make myself be different, trying to fix myself, doing a lot of self-development, that kind of thing. And how much do we use that as a stick to beat ourselves up with? We expect a lot of ourselves, don't we, a lot of the time? Especially, I mean, I'm a good girl, you see, so of course I have a lot of expectations of myself from that position of being a good girl, because good girls do the right thing, don't they? So I think that's, but what I'm seeing now is that is falling away. Like, it doesn't feel quite as, I don't feel as well, I feel a lot less like that about myself than I've ever done, probably now, which is amazing to see that it's not a set point, it's not permanent. It's, you can start to peel off the layers of that expectation, because I think with expectation comes guilt quite often. I should have known better, I shouldn't have done that, I shouldn't have, should-ifying ourselves, and then guilt, I think, can come with those expectations we have of ourselves. But it's not, it's realizing that if it feels off, then it's to do with your conditioned thinking that's off. It's not because you're doing the wrong thing. It's just because you've got some rules about that are still hanging around from when somebody told you off when you were 5, literally. It's realizing that. And as you realize that, you start to ignore that niggly voice in the back of your mind that's kind of saying, oh, well, you should have known better. Why do you should be able to control that by now. And I think as well, the last thing is that the self-development feeds into that, because self-development says, well, you should be able to control your thoughts and feelings. That's your job as a human being, is to control thoughts and feelings, and therefore control behavior, or control behavior. And of course, then we have these very high expectations of ourselves, because we've been told by some guru that we should be able to have positive thinking all the time, and control our feelings and behave, and it's just, we're just not being good enough if we've not got a handle on that. And that's all steeped in expectation, isn't it?
Yeah.
And now seeing that that's just not the way it is, really. You don't control your thoughts or your feelings or your behavior, really. Because who's doing the controlling? There's the same thoughts that are creating the thoughts, feelings, and behavior. trying to control the thoughts, feelings, and behavior. It's that Einstein, isn't it? You know, you can't solve a problem with the same thinking that created it. And that's what we're trying to do when we're trying to control our thoughts and feelings and behavior.
Yeah.
That's why it doesn't work.
Right. Yeah. The whole personal development, self-improvement and all that, it can implode on itself. If I may speak to like three things in there, or two, maybe it might have the one might have disappeared. You had these high expectations of yourself. I want to just share another perspective, because I wasn't the most academic in my class going through school. So it'd be like, well, what did so-and-so get? And when I would, be pretty proud of something I got, and I couldn't compete academically. There was just this natural comparison. It was just natural. It was innocent. It wasn't meant to do anything, but it was just like, dang, like, I just can't compete. I'm not wired that way. So what I found was that I actually purposely kind of downgraded my expectations of myself, so I wasn't disappointed, so that I was okay being an average student. I just became very good at that because it was enough. I just wanted to be enough to just pass and move on and not have to take these subjects that I have no interest in, and my brain cannot comprehend these numbers with all these symbols. And it was just like, talking about purple aliens and oranges and letters and numbers. And it's just like, it didn't compute. And I feel a little differently about that now. I actually can take all that in. But there was and how I see that we're always looking to make ourselves feel better. And sometimes in the feeling better, we actually set the bar lower. And it's like we're comparing this bar, like this bar is imaginary. And we don't see that, right? We all have strengths, we all have places, and we all have skills and attributes and an essence that is each of us, that is, we're created to sort of fill us. It's like we're all sand, and we're all meant to sort of fill in some crack somewhere. And we can't all fill in the same crack. The crack will overflow. We are all meant to sort of satisfy something in our own particular way. So it's like, this idea of expectations, it can, whether they're really high or we set them really low, in some way they're limiting. They're limiting in some way. Even if we have an agreement, even if we set intentions of, hey, let's do it this way. And if we come to a pass where it's like there's, or a place where all of a sudden something feels different because now there's new information. It's like being in the flow just feels like so much more helpful than setting these. I think setting an intention is a good, throwing it out there. It's like throwing a fishing line. It's like, you got to throw it in a direction. Don't throw it on the ground behind you. Throw it in, where you think that the fish might be. So it's like, it's good to throw in a direction and then go there.
What I'm hearing there,
yeah, that's okay. I was just going to say, and then just be willing to like, okay, where next? Let's go next. Okay, that didn't work. Let's go here.
What I'm hearing there is that expectation is made out of the past. It's our set of rules and learnings and stuff, and that actually the opposite of that would just be presence.
Yeah.
It would just be the next step. It would be like what feels right here, and in the heart and in the gut, what feels right there in this moment. What is the next step? And to notice that if something comes in that says, that's not good enough, or that's too much, or that's whatever, surround some expectations that are just this floating bit of the past. I think we're concluding, aren't we, that expectations just made of the past, they just are just another piece of that conditioning. It's just another piece of that jigsaw puzzle, isn't it, that we talk about a lot on this podcast, is they're just these pieces of stuff that we've learned as we've gone through life, and that therefore the antidote, if you're not the antidote, but the opposite of all of that is presence, is just the moment, the flow, the next step, and that expectation would therefore be something that tries to pull us away from the present moment, which is where we are ultimately most powerful, most aligned, most in a place of love and everything else that we really want to be.
Yeah.
I think we've stitched that up beautifully, don't you?
Yeah. It's kind of funny because I see that, each of the things that come up, they could come up again and again, because there's always another, like there's so many facets to it. So it makes it fascinating, truly. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. But feels good for today.
Yeah. Lovely. Lovely exploring with you, Michaela, always.
Yeah, you too.
Take care.
Enjoy the vineyard.
I will do. Thank you so much.
All right.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.